Elen Silla Lumen Omen Tiovo. Today I bring to you all the legend of Thorin Oakenshield. Thorin was born in the Third Age year of 2746. He was the oldest of Thrain's three children, Freyrin and Dis, being Thorin's brother and sister. Thorin, being the eldest, meant he would become king under the mountain, as well as king of Durin's folk. When Thorin was only 24 years old, the dragon Smaug came and took Erebor from the dwarves. Thorin only survived due to being outside the mountain at the time. Thorin, for years after, wondered how his father Thrain and grandfather Thror survived. The Longbeards would wander the wild for years, coming into regions like Dunland. Thror would enter into Moria, and there he would be killed by Azog. This vile act by the orcs enraged the dwarves of all houses, and they gathered under Thrain for war. 3 years after Thror's death, in 2793, the war began. Thorin would join in avenging his grandfather. The orcs were nearly destroyed throughout the Misty Mountains. In 2799, the Battle of Azanabalzar began. The battle would go badly for the Longbeards, as the dwarves were pushed near the borders of Lothlorien. Freyrin would be killed, Thrain would lose his eye, and Thorin would be forced to use an oak branch as a shield to hold off the onslaught. Dwarven reinforcements would arrive, and Dane Ironfoot would kill Azog. The dwarves would not reclaim Moria, however, and Thrain would take the Longbeards to the arid Luin. Due to the war of the dwarves and orcs, Thorin had gained the epithet of Oakenshield. For years, the dwarves lived a prosperous life, but with less mining of gold. In 2841, Thrain departed the halls of the Blue Mountains in an attempt to reclaim Erebor. 4 years later, Thrain disappeared, and Thorin became the king of Durin's folk. The dwarves would continue to live in the Blue Mountains with little hope of reclaiming Erebor. That would change one day in 2941, when at Bree, Gandalf the Grey ran into Thorin. Thorin and Gandalf discussed the mountain, Smaug, and how to reclaim Erebor. Thorin would return to the Blue Mountains and gather 12 dwarves, his 2 nephews, Fili and Kili, as well as Balin, Dwalin, Owen, Glowin, Bifur, Boffer, Bomber, Dori, Nori, and Ori. Gandalf told Thorin that he had one more person in mind for the quest, a hobbit named Bilbo Baggins. The company arrived in waves to Bilbo's house, and Thorin, by mischance, would fall over in the doorway and be crushed by his fellow dwarves. Bilbo would apologize many times throughout the night. As the night went on, Thorin would become less and less impressed with the hobbit, to the point that Gandalf would then go on to say that if Bilbo did not go on the adventure, then Thorin's quest would fail. Towards the end of the night, Gandalf would present a map and key to Thorin, revealing that there was a secret door. Thorin had then learned the items were from his father before he died in Dol Guldur. And so the company departed the next day, and Bilbo would join them. The company spent many days traveling out of the Shire until they reached the Trollshaws. There they discovered Gandalf had vanished. That night the company saw a mysterious light, and one by one they went to investigate. Thorin would be the last, and due to a warning from Bilbo that there were trolls, Thorin kicked the fire into one of the trolls' faces before being captured. Fortunately, Gandalf returned and tricked the trolls into arguing until daylight turned them to stone. Thorin would then take one of the elven blades in the troll's cave and learned in Rivendell it was the famed blade Orcrist from Gondolin. While also in Rivendell, Elrond was able to read the moon runes hidden on Thorin's map, revealing the location of the hidden door. Trouble would again hit the company as they traversed the Misty Mountains. Needing shelter from a thunderstorm, the company would be captured by goblins. The company would be saved by Gandalf, and they escaped the tunnels. That night, wolves and goblins attacked, forcing Thorin and the company up the trees, only to be saved by the fireworks of Gandalf and the arrival of the great eagles. The company would find rest in Beorn's halls for a time, before heading off into Mirkwood. There, Gandalf would leave them. Many weeks were spent in the forest, and food began to run low. The company would stumble upon 3 feasts of the Wood Elves. Each time the company intruded, the lights would go out. On the 3rd occasion, Thorin would go, and he would be captured by the elves. Thranduil, the Elven King, would question Thorin why the company was in Mirkwood, to which Thorin made no answer. Thorin would be imprisoned until he revealed his purpose. The rest of the company would soon join Thorin in prison, except for Bilbo, who wore his magic ring to stay hidden. Bilbo would work out a way for the dwarves to escape via barrels, heading for the nearby lake town. The journey was uneventful, as the company managed to arrive to the shore. Thorin, Bilbo, Fili, and Kili would enter Lake Town and receive support from the master of the town. At long last, so many years, Thorin finally returned to the Lonely Mountain. When the secret door was revealed and opened, Bilbo would venture down into the dragon's lair, and he stole a cup. Bilbo would encounter Smaug several more times, and he urged Thorin and the company to close the door. No sooner had they done this than Smaug had destroyed the door from the outside. Thorin and the dwarves would venture into the mountain's halls and see the long-lost gold of Erebor. Thorin would search for the Arkenstone, being unable to find it. And the jewel would grow on his mind, especially after Roach the Raven revealed Smaug's death. Thorin would fully succumb to dragon sickness. He ordered a refortification of Erebor's main gate and refused to deal with Bard of Lake Town due to the elves of Mirkwood involvement. Thorin would send word to Dain in the Iron Hills to reinforce him. Thorin, upon learning that Bilbo gave Bard the Arkenstone, nearly threw him from the wall before letting him go. Dain would arrive, and a battle would almost be fought until suddenly the goblins of the Misty Mountains attacked, starting the Battle of the Five Armies. For some time it seemed Thorin would stay behind the gate in the mountain. But suddenly Thorin and his dwarves joined the battle, rallying the free peoples to him. Thorin would charge at Bolg, the leader, but would fall wounded, with Fili and Kili giving their lives to protect Thorin. Thorin would be saved by Beorn, who in beast form killed Bolg and carried Thorin to safety. Thorin knew he was dying, and he wished to make amends with Bilbo. After saying goodbye to the hobbit, Thorin died, and he would be buried with the Arkenstone and the sword Orcrist. And so ends the legend of Thorin Oakenshield. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, As always, feel free to like and subscribe for more content, and please let me know how I can better improve these videos. Thanks, and as the elves say, Namadrie.